People who quit their jobs on the first day, what was your "I'm outta here" moment? I answered an ad for a babysitting job. I was already working on a casual basis, but it was sporadic, so I thought some after-hours babysitting would be welcome extra cash. The couple were both in the military and proceeded to tell me that I would be staying in the spare room and looking after their 6-month-old child around the clock as well as doing the housework. I would have 1 day off every 2 weeks. They said it is cash in hand, so I could sign on to the dole, unemployment benefit, to make up the rest of the money. I left on the spot. They wanted a live-in housemaid and nanny, not a babysitter, and they were not able to pay for one. Why they thought it was up to me to illegally collect the dole to subsidize them, I don't know. Applied for a job at my longtime favorite restaurant, celebrated my birthday there every year. Owner asked me to come in for basically a tryout, as I communicated I was looking at other job possibilities. I come in, and they just stick me on dishwashing for an hour, no biggie. Then their dishwasher doesn't show up, so the kitchen manager asks me to stay one for their lunch rush. Saya, I'll get paid for the hours. I do. Kitchen staff was nice, so I was happy to help out even though I figured I'd be taking a different job. I fill out a time card at the end of the shift and tell the manager I probably wouldn't be back. He understands and thanks me for the help. Fast forward a couple weeks, and he tells me to email the owner after I ask him if I should pick up my measly paycheck. I do. She basically tells me to F off over text. Tells me it was staging and that she told me I wouldn't be paid. I respond that I understand that, but that I stayed an extra 3 hours which I was told I'd be paid for. She stops responding. I decide I want to be petty over the $40, so I get the stat labor department involved. Dude goes in there and makes her pay me for the hours including the first staging hour. Couple weeks later I got my $40. Never went back to that restaurant. Edit. Firstly, petty is not how I see it 2 years later. I'm very glad I did this and sharing the story with others in my city. I learned this practice was very common with local restaurants. Hopefully others learn to stand up for their labor too from my small experience. Secondly, this restaurant closed down a couple weeks after I got that paycheck. The owner made a long-winded complaint on the FB page about how the food culture had changed in the city and her restaurant didn't fit in anymore. Total bullcrap. They were always popular. Most people theorized the terrible mismanagement and employee abuse had caught up to her. When the microwave in the lunchroom was coin-activated. I was hired to be a waitress, which has a lower hourly wage due to tips. The entire shift they had me wash dishes in the sink, but paid me waitress wages. A few months later the restaurant was investigated for a number of fraud activity. I interviewed for a professional marketing assistant and got the job straight away. I was under the impression that I would be an assistant to the man I was interviewed by. When I showed up for my first day, the same waiting room I was in the previous day was full of people. I quickly learned that we were all hired, and that I would be a door-to-door salesperson selling some pretty useless crap. I spent my entire day inside a Starbucks applying for other jobs and went home, got paid, but never went back. Salesman for Kirby Vacuums. First sale call was to a single elderly woman who was supporting her son in hospital. They got us in the door by offering a free carpet clean as a demonstration. The supervisor training me pushed and pushed to make the sale until this old woman was in tears. Just as she was about to sign the paperwork, I asked if she actually wanted to vacuum, and she said it was lovely, but she couldn't afford it. I took the paperwork away from her and said not to worry. Outside I told the supervisor I quit, to which he replied I would have been fired anyway. No love lost. I hung around for half an hour playing on my phone to make sure the supervisor left because he was a real piece of work. It was my first day at Five Guys. It was around 10:30 p.m., and they told me it was time to clock out, despite not having finished closing. I then worked until almost midnight. I did not return. It was a petrol station and the manager wanted me to work for free until I had learned their computer systems to what he deemed a satisfactory extent. I agreed to do it, because I needed a job, and he brought me in at 7 a.m. on my first day. However, he was not present to go through the training with me, so I was just standing around kind of helping out on the forecourt but not really knowing what I should be doing. Not learning anything. After about an hour and a half without the manager showing up or anyone training me on anything, I decided that I wasn't going to continue to be taken advantage of and told the cashier to pass on the message to the manager that I had quit. Worked in a hotel for a day. No one told me where anything was. Got chewed out for it. Guests enjoying their meals told me to pay no mind / I was doing a good job and that my boss is a female part. I told the manager that I was quitting and wouldn't be doing the next shift. I arrived the next day, returning a work uniform, and my supervisor approached me and yelled at me for being late. I told her I already quit, but if I was working, technically I was 5 hours early for my shift. Absolute nutcases. Young and naive right out of college, took a marketing job. My interview was great, nothing shady seemed to be going on and no immediate red flags. After 4 hours of training, my first day consisted of going door to door in a suburban town trying to sell cable to older people. We were told to dress for business, so I'm hiking around for miles in my best skirt, suit jacket and heels. Hours were from 9 to 5, but we didn't get back to the business until well after 10 p.m. Not to mention, the person I was shadowing was able to make a sale to an older gentleman who seemed to have memory issues. I noped the F right out of there. I was hired at a chain restaurant to be a hostess. I was so excited because my last job was washing dishes, and because of my eczema, I had to quit. It was too painful to do that job. So, I arrived at my new job dressed up to be a hostess, and those b****s took me back to the kitchen to do dishes because the dishwasher just quit. I noped out of there real fast. I technically quit before my first day. I got hired at a well-known gift store. I was hired with the understanding that I would work Saturdays, Sundays, and a grand total of 8 hours a week, so 2 4-hour shifts. Also, at minimum wage. Not a problem with me, done that before. I would just pick up a part-time job for rest of the week. Nope, apparently that wasn't allowed. The manager thought that was a horrible thing and disrespectful to her. I should only work for them and only them, and I should have better control over my money if I can't survive on $64 a week before taxes. Yeah, didn't show up cause F that noise. She called pissed off that I wouldn't show up to such an opportunity. It was a waitress gig for a local restaurant. I finished my first day, then was told that training would continue for 6 weeks. While I was in training, all the tips I got had to be given to my trainer. I was being paid less than $2 an hour. I called the next day and said it wasn't going to work out. My very first job was at a little drive-in restaurant close to my high school. I showed up to work the first day. The lady said I had to pay her $50 for training. She showed me around the place and said that my pay would be $4.50. 0/hour as a car hop. This was in 2010. And all the tips I made went into a bucket with all the other girls' tips. At the end of the night, she counted up tips, kept 20% for herself and split the rest up evenly among every employee. Also, part of our job was 1 day a week we had to spend 4 hours cleaning her house. It seemed super shady. I literally left after listening to her go over all these rules. My dad was pissed until I explained, and another girl confirmed, and my dad agreed I did the right thing. Shady and highly illegal. Tip pooling is legal but is supposed to be only with other tipped employees. Her skimming 20% off the top is not legal. Pretty sure you can't charge someone to train them for a job you hired them for. I was a cashier at this cafeteria for a large company in my town. The people that worked at the company would put their tips in a bucket, and the people made a lot of money, so there was like 10s and 20s. The manager of the cafe wouldn't let me have any of tips because she said that cashiers couldn't be trusted, so she would ship the tip money to a church in El Paso. I immediately knew that this was a load of bullcrap and I just never went back. It's also illegal, I think, to collect money for one thing but do something else with it without disclosing who/what it is for. I went into orientation for a new job as truck driver. Obviously you know you will be away from home, but this was crafty. Out on the road 30 days at a time, then only 36 hours, or 1.5 days at home. You only work 6 out of 7 days. So 4 of those days you just sit at the truck stop unable to move. And not getting paid. Can't bring a pet of any type. so I would only be home 18 days a year. On the road for 347 days a year, and unpaid for 52 of them. The no pets rule was the final straw for me. I will not be out 30 days alone with no little friend to keep me sane. I noped out of there. Crafty motel gig in Raleigh, no contact when I was young and desperate for a job, any job. Came in to relieve the cigarette hag overnight lady who told me about the batch she kept beneath the counter, which rooms had the prostitutes and which rooms were for the genuinely lost tourists, how not to give out towels to certain people because they had 10 people to a room, and they were trying to get them to leave. While she was talking to me, one of the prostitutes came up and paid her with sweaty top money. Also, they expected me to do laundry in the back room and between babysitting the front desk. Also, to watch out for stray needles or paraphernalia in the sheets. I overheard a man in the lobby on the phone, talking about how he had a friend who was in jail, and he was going to hire him to kill his cousin who was in that same jail. All in between bites of bargain bin Fruit Loops from the continental breakfast. I left. They never sent me my check for working that day and I never called to get it. Edit, it was over by Crabtree Mall area. I tried to look it up again but I think they must have torn it down and built something new over it. Probably for the best. Took a summer job at a textile plant and the trainer said, "Forget about taking a break if you want to stay caught up." Reply: forget about being caught up. Not me, but I was training a new lifeguard. After our shift was mandatory staff training for our entire crew, where we practice rescues. Once she found out we actually had to practice and go in the water, she just walked out. Not really sure what kind of job she thought she had signed up for. Started a new job unloading shipping containers and was told they had to be empty by midday. This was imperative because a new one was going to arrive in the early afternoon. It was a two-man job if we both worked our asses off to get it done. Boss says, also your offsider is off work today, you will need to get this cleared. I just walked out. Even if it was a trial by fire, I wasn't interested in working for these female parts, F that. I got a job at a Build-A-Bear knockoff at the end of a mall that wasn't very busy. My interview with the owners was interesting. They were an older couple who said that they had wanted to open a chick father-in-law, but you need about $1 million to do that. My first day, one other girl was working, and she didn't really talk to me. I had basically no training, and she disappeared into the back. I was standing at the register area, which was underneath a giant storybook mushroom. A mother and her young son walk in and start to look at the bearskin options. I greeted them and left them to look around. They ended up leaving after a couple minutes and my coworker reappeared from the back with a cordless phone and handed it to me. It was my boss. He told me that when a customer walks in, he wants me to come out from under the mushroom to them, come out from the mushroom. After he finished speaking to me, I hung up and went to my coworker and asked about the phone call. She said the place has cameras set up and the owners watch them from their house and call in a lot. I did not come back to work after that day. Build-A-Bear? Fast food chain. I was 17. I found out during training that the place had been robbed 3 times in the past month and one employee was seriously injured. Not worth the $5 per hour. Edit, for those asking about the pay and the time, this was the U.S. state of Georgia in 2004. Went into an Italian restaurant for my first day of work and I got 3 red flags on the very first day. One, the manager said he had lots of hours for me and getting shifts would be no problem. Every single other employee told me that they were struggling for hours and that they had no idea why they hired me. 2, everyone said the manager was in butthole. Even the customers. 3, it was my first day there, and I actually had to teach the woman training me how to do 1 or 2 things. Probably hired you to replace that woman. I had a job for 1 day selling home security equipment door to door. The whole idea was basically to make it seem like you're doing them a service and then lock the customer into 5-year contracts. My supervisor and I were in this one home of a family that hardly some English. The father said they had been struggling with finances but my supervisor kept pushing it on them, and the customer seemed like he didn't fully understand what was going on. I couldn't in good conscience take these people that were already struggling and put them in a worse position. I worked in one jail, and on my first day whoever runs the investigations of prisons busted my sergeant and 5 other COs for bringing drugs and effing male inmates. Didn't even wait till the end of my shift. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.